Hello everybody, Kelly Rice here, but I write under my pen name KM Rice. And for those of you who are vlog regulars, I hope you appreciate the fact that I finally fulfilled my goal of incorporating one of my hats. Because usually I incorporate a top, but I do have a top to show off as well. Check it out. Dun 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 dun. You just glimpsed a unicorn tank top. Why am I in a tank top, you ask? Because it's been like 104 degrees for 3 days, and where I am in California, and you can't really wear something like this. Those two sentences aren't related. I thought that they would have been. But this is a wool hat. I'm rambling. But this is a wool hat that I purchased in Napier, New Zealand, which was destroyed by a massive earthquake in the 30s. And since the whole the whole town and city was rebuilt, it was rebuilt in the style that was in vogue at the time, which was Art Deco. So I went crazy, being the Art Nouveau, Art Deco lover that I am, and I bought things that I can't really wear because they're kind of costing me. But here I am, in one of my hats, right now, on my video blog. So, I hope you guys are all doing wonderfully, and that if it's summer where you are, you're having a wonderful summer, and if it's winter where you are, that you're having a wonderful winter and staying warm. I am going to answer a question from Kira-san, or San, who asked, who were your role models growing up? And did you keep any into adulthood? And the question goes on. Do you think today's entertainment industry does enough to promote female role models? How do you rate the latest Wonder Woman movie, for example? Those are a lot of really good questions, and I don't know if I'll be able to answer all of them in one episode of this video blog. I've thought about this question for a couple days ever since I first received it because and again, that's why I love doing this vlog. You guys challenge me to self-reflect, which I'm not the greatest at in general. So being asked that question, I kind of every once in a while my subconscious would be working on the answer. And an obvious answer for me, as silly as it sounds, when I was growing up, one of my role models was Indiana Jones. I wanted to be just like Indiana Jones. You know why? He could speak so many different languages. He could fire a gun, he could land a plane and fly a plane. He knew how to do almost everything that an adventurer needed to know. And I greatly admired his intelligence and his skill. And I wanted to be able to replicate that. So as a teenager, my goal was to start learning as many languages as I could, learn how to shoot a gun, and learn how to fly a plane. Because I felt like those are things that you just probably need in life to know how to do. I was really good at Spanish, pero hace demasiado tiempo que he hablado, entonces estoy perdiendo la lengua. Mi acento no es muy bien ahora, pero había una vez I was almost fluent, but when you're not using a language, it's hard. When I drink, somehow Spanish comes out again. I started learning Italian at the same time as Spanish, and it didn't work well because they're so similar that I started answering questions in my Spanish class with Italian, and I couldn't tell. Like instead of 50, I'd be like, 50! And my Spanish teacher would be like, you're speaking Italian, what are you doing? And I was like, I didn't realize that was Italian. And so since it started getting mixed up, I kind of paused on the Italian. Might pick that up again one day. But I was able to speak a little bit of... I was abroad last summer in Ireland and Scotland and met a couple other tourists who were Italian, and I was able to talk to them a little bit using my Spanish. But anyway, I've also studied Old English, I've studied Latin. Those are dead languages. I know a teeny bit of German, a little bit of Irish, but other than that, I did not live up to my goal of being a polyglot. I know that there's a lot of time left in life, hopefully, to learn these things, but as I got older that seemed a little bit less important because I realized I wasn't Indiana Jones, and I wasn't going to be going on all these crazy adventures during world wars and all that stuff. I'm okay at firing a gun. Grew up in the country, so I grew up around weapons. The airplane, though, I don't even drive a car, so an airplane, that wouldn't be good. A boat, I can drive a boat, okay. I can sail okay. I can ride a horse pretty dang good. Put me on my own 2 feet, though, and I'll impress you all with my, like, how fast is my mile now? With my, like, 10-minute mile. Yeah, I'm not really living up to my expectations. I do have a hat today, though, and that's kind of like Indiana Jones, you know? His fedora kind of fits the time period as well, almost. It's up a little high on my head because my hair's in a bun that's pushing it up, because I have very long hair. It's hard to wear hats when you have very long hair. Anyway, yes. So Indiana Jones was a great role model of mine because he was trying to preserve history. He was doing everything from a selfless standpoint, and it was for the sake of the greater good of humanity. He was kind of a humanitarian in the sense of being an ambassador of the humanities in all his crazy situations, and plus those movies are so dang fun. I watched a lot of Star Wars growing up. Nothing ever clicked for me with those characters. Another role model, who were any of my other role models? Maybe Simba from The Lion King, because I was just like obsessed with The Lion King, but I'm not sure if that was a role model because me and my best friend called each other Simba and Nala, and we were Simba and Nala for years. Those were our nicknames, but how can you really want to be like Simba? I mean, you could learn from Simba and his mistakes. But when I first got this question, I was thinking about it in context of the follow-up questions about female role models, and I was searching my memory trying to find a female fictional character who stuck with me as a child and who inspired me and guided me. And I realized that other than Indiana Jones, who's, surprise, surprise, not female, I couldn't really think of any. That's not to say that they didn't exist. Like I just said, I mentioned Star Wars. Well, we had Princess Leia. She didn't do it for me. Like, my older brother and I used to go play Star Wars, and we would go down to our tree house, and this rope we had hanging from the big oak, and we'd be like, let's play Star Wars, and he'd be like, I'm Luke, and you're Leia, and I'm like, yeah! And then he's like, let's do what they do, okay! And he would grab me, and then grab the rope, and then we would just pretend we're swinging over the pit in the whatever spaceship that was. It's been a while since I've seen A New Hope. And we would swing, and I would be like holding on to him because he's Luke, and then we'd get to the other side, and we're like, now what do? We swing back. So then we'd swing back. And we'd do it a couple times, and I'd be like, I'm fucking bored. This is a stupid game. And he's like, yeah, me too. This is what we do, because, you know, that's what Princess Leia does. I mean, she shoots a gun sometimes and other stuff, but wasn't nearly as exciting to me as Indiana Jones was. So... And I also had She-Ra. I don't remember much about the character. Anyone who grew up in the 80s and 90s will know what maybe probably only 80s, will know what I'm talking about when I say She-Ra. She was like the answer to He-Man, I think. Again, I was so young at the time, I didn't know much of any of this. All I knew was these were toys I was given. So maybe that was part of the problem. Like, my brother had He-Man, and I think we had a He-Man book, but we didn't have TV, really. We got 3 channels, I think, until I was about 6. Then we had a massive earthquake, and that shook things up, and then we could kind of get PBS. So I could watch Big Bird really fuzzy. Now that I think about it, growing up without tons of TV, maybe that influenced me as a writer, but that's another subject. So maybe if we were able to see the companion cartoons to these characters, it would have had a bigger influence, but from my understanding, you guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, that He-Man and She-Ra were created to sell toys, and that She-Ra was just kind of the female counterpart of He-Man. Again, I knew that she was out there and that she existed. It did not stick with me. Female characters who did stick with me were Samantha, the American Girl doll. I loved getting the American Girl catalogs and looking through at all the dolls and all the things you could buy for them. And for some reason, I honed in on Samantha. I think because we were encouraged to pick dolls that looked like us. And there was never a doll with hazel eyes and brown hair and fair skin, other than Samantha was as close as I could get. And plus, even back then, I was interested in the Victorian era. And she had some pretty cool adventures. I got one of the American Girl doll books because we could never afford any of the actual American Girl dolls. Though my mom and dad did eventually buy me a knockoff, which I named Samantha. And I remember her pretty vividly because it was some story about she snuck out in a storm and she helped rescue someone, and the fact that she was a kid and having these adventures and sneaking around and doing good deeds, that appealed to me. My mom tried to get me into Nancy Drew because she was really into the Nancy Drew books as a child, and I found them completely boring, and I remember I felt so bad. One summer she borrowed like a stack of them from the local library, and I read part of one and was like, "This is stupid, I'm not reading the rest." So again, it was a female character that I couldn't connect with. I also loved The Secret Garden. And I don't know how much of that story and how much of that was the female protagonist. But this leads me to the second part of your question, which is, do you think we're doing enough to promote female characters or female role models? And I'm going to stick to fiction because, or film, fictional characters, just because that's, I feel like, more on topic for this vlog. And I can see a big difference of when I was a child, and which the feminist movement was still making changes and trying to get the cogs turning to start producing these female characters, and now, where there are far more options. I mean, I love Brave. I think Brave is a fantastic film. If I ever have kids, I want them to watch Brave. I haven't seen Tangled, I haven't seen Frozen, and I know that those are both great films that have female protagonists directed at children. Moana, I saw Moana recently, and that was also spectacular. So I think that the shift is happening, that it's starting to become more about story and less about gender, which, if you've seen my vlog on strong female characters, that's kind of what I've always been more interested in. Tell good stories and have the main character be a female lead with agency, rather than, hey everyone, look, I've got a chick in here, she's doing everything, she's hot, and she's a genius, and she can kick ass, and yet she can also save the world, and also be a mom, and all this stuff. So basically they take like 12 characters and put them into one, and then they like give themselves a pat on the back for being like, but she's got a vagina! And they think they've done something revolutionary. I'm not interested in that. We get enough of that as it is. But what I've always been interested in is storytelling and good stories. And if you have a female character, and like, for example, Moana, it doesn't make any difference what her gender is in that story. You could replace her with a man. Now, that's iffy territory, because I also do not like it when people take a female character and basically write her as a man, because I think that that's wrong and disingenuous for a lot of different reasons. I think that there are a million unexplored storylines with women that we could delve into if we acknowledge our differences from men, for lack of putting it more eloquently. So it's a tight rope to walk to please K.M. Rice. But going to the third part of your question, Wonder Woman and 3. Did you see that? I just pulled that one, I was gonna say out of my hat, but you guys were watching and I didn't. But I just I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you, no one. Thank you, no one. So, Wonder Woman. I did get to see Wonder Woman, and I need to put a big disclaimer on this. At the time that I saw Wonder Woman, for any of you who don't know, which is probably a lot of you because I don't say a lot about this stuff publicly, my dad just was in the hospital for a month. he had open heart surgery and a lot of issues, and thankfully he's home now and he's doing much better. But there was a period of understandably very stressful and scary uncertainty. And during that period, my friends were like, let's go see Wonder Woman, and I was very excited to go see it, and to go see it with them. And I thought, oh, this will be a great escape. But unfortunately, I'm not so easily able to jump out of my head. So while I was watching the film, I was still not present. There's pieces of it that I missed because I would get lost in my thoughts or worries or whatever. So I need to see it again. Because I read some reviews about it and I was like, I don't remember that dialogue. I don't remember, and I realized I wasn't as present as I should have been. So I definitely need to see it again. But I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was a great film. I'm surprised that so many people are taking their young children to see it because it's still also quite violent and scary. I mean, World War I is a scary, scary subject, and poison gas, I would have been freaked out by that stuff as a kid. Again, going back to Indiana Jones, there's all the young Indiana Jones chronicles, and they had poison gas in them and stuff, and the stuff, it lingers. Maybe this is why I'm like obsessed with World War I and stuff. Because of Indiana Jones. But Wonder Woman had that. Wonder Woman had some of my big interests. It had the Great War. It had, woman warriors. It had the element of the supernatural, which is Diana, Wonder Woman. And I really liked it. I thought it was fun. That said, when you're surrounded by all these people who are like, you need to see this movie, it's gonna blow your mind, and there's all this hype about it, and especially hype in terms of it's so empowering to women and this and that. So then you go and you see it, and even if you're trying not to have any expectations, you're watching it, and how I felt was the audience around me was responding very well to that message. But I think in part because that's something I'm so aware of as I write and tell stories. I'm watching it going, oh, good, okay, good, they hit that note, oh, good, oh, they covered that, okay, good. Instead of, oh my god, this is new, I've never seen this before, because I've told it in my stories. I've tried to express these values in my stories, so it's territory my imagination has already been over. And so I'm not exactly a fresh audience member who can sit there and be like, I never thought of it that way before, but that's awesome. So I lacked some of the enthusiasm, but again, that could have to do with the circumstances under which I saw it. And I don't want to go off about Wonder Woman too long because I feel like I've spent more time talking about why I didn't pay close enough attention than I have about what my actual assessment of the film is. But overall, I thought that it was very well done. And it makes me sad that we're not going to have another Wonder Woman film and that it's going into Justice League, because I think at that point it starts to get really cheesy. Once you open it up and have it be a whole world of superheroes, that's where I always start to get lost as an audience member, because I liked it with almost the magical realism twist of, but there's this, this is the thing that's different. The Wizarding World is different. Diana's different, and where she's from, Themyscira, is different. But then as soon as you're like, and there's Superman, who's basically an alien, and all these other things, it's like, then she's not so different and special because there's all these other special things, and it can just get to melodrama really quickly. And I've already talked about Superman and how I find it difficult to relate because there's no real vulnerability, and I don't want to get into an argument or discussion about superheroes. And I'll just say right now, I've only seen Iron Man 1 and Guardians of the Galaxy. That's kind of it for Marvel for me. So my whole argument of once you get a bunch of superheroes then it kind of gets weird, I'm talking as someone who hasn't seen all the Marvel movies, or most of the Marvel movies, so I know that there's a huge audience for that, and that there are plenty of people who enjoy it, and it's just fun. But for me, I don't know. I did really like Diana's character. I thought she was pretty cool. I felt like it was a missed opportunity a few times, but again, this is going back to one of my other episodes where I was talking about when you're criticizing, you need to take a step back and say, is it serving the purpose that it intended to serve? Because that's If it's not, then that's a fair criticism. But if you're looking at it and saying, well, that's just not what I would have done, then I don't think that's necessarily a fair criticism. And some of this is me being, that's not what I would have done. And, for example, when she comes to London, and I'll keep this pretty spoiler-free, but when Wonder Woman is first exposed to a very patriarchal gendered society in 1916 England, she doesn't bat an eye and she just kind of cruises around and is like, oh, these women can't even vote, whatever. And she makes a few comments like, how do you fight in this outfit? And like innocent things like that, which that's cute. And it's understated, whatever. The feminism is very understated, but I felt like it was almost a disservice to the character and making her seem dumb for not being like, whoa, what's going on? Wait, why can't she do that? Or why can't I do this as a woman? So I felt like there were a few missed opportunities that they could have slipped it in just to keep it authentic to the character without beating you over the head with any sort of message. Didn't delete footage from my memory card before I started filming and had to just stop talking to the camera to do that. And the reason I'm never really prepared to film these vlogs is because I always do it spur of the moment when I'm like, hey, I have makeup on for a different reason, so now I should utilize it to film rather than actually not being a lazy ass and putting some on, filming my vlog. So that's how lazy I am. So, to go back to the question at hand, namely the second or third part of the question about do I think we do enough to promote female role models, the short answer is there's always room for more. I think until there's like a 50-50 split, like how else can you judge if it's equal? I think that we're definitely doing better than when I was a child. I know I've talked about Katniss before, and Divergent, which I haven't gotten into, but I know that that's also a female protagonist and heroine, and we didn't have that when I was a kid. Like I didn't have a woman showing me that she can lead a revolution. So that makes my eyeball twitch, because I'm like, Katniss actually technically didn't lead the revolution, and that's a bone I have to pick with the books, but I won't get into that right now. Maybe I'll do a separate vlog on Katniss. But there's always room for more. There's always room for improvement, and I don't think that we necessarily do enough to promote female role models. But I hesitate to say that because it shouldn't be something we have to promote. It should just exist. It should just be there. These should be stories that are being told with this particular character because she best serves the story, rather than because you can feel it. Anyone can feel it when it feels cheap, and you can tell that they're just trying to, force some agenda down someone's throat. And art should never feel that way. Entertainment even should never feel that way. And anyone who wants to be successful should never be doing it in a manner where it feels like the audience is being force-fed. Some of us are devious writers. And we're subconsciously planting ideas in your minds through our storytelling. It should stay subconscious. It should stay something that goes under the radar. The moment you go over and you get detected, then people start to feel like they're being talked down to, and you stop listening. So, that's my advice. If you want to be an evil mastermind manipulator, or at least try to be. I'm not saying I do that. Do I really look like an evil mastermind manipulator? With this hat I might. So, there's at least a cursory answer to your question. It was an awesome question. And please keep the questions coming, as always, because, like I said at the start of this, I love being forced to reflect and to think and to form an opinion on something, because for whatever reason my personality is such that I don't always have opinions until I am put in a situation or asked a question like that prompts me to reflect and think, what do I really think about this? Because we go through life and we have a lot of opinions that actually aren't our own. They're put upon us by our families, or by our society, or by our partners, whatever. And you have to take that extra step of going past your knee-jerk reaction to, what do I really think? And I love getting to that spot and testing out new ideas and learning about the world around me. So please keep the questions coming, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Oh no, I can't say that yet. I have to sign off with something. So I'm going to sign off with... This is staying on topic. What does this look like? A Wonder Woman crown, perhaps? It's because my aunt has been a huge fan of Wonder Woman since she was a child. She had a Wonder Woman birthday party. I couldn't go. So when I saw her recently, she brought some arts and crafts that were left over from her party so that we could make Wonder Woman crowns. This is my Wonder Woman tiara. So from me and my Wonder Woman tiara, I wish you all a very fond farewell.